Fusion, a Ford Fusion. Dome light is on.
It's now 6:30. I'd like to call to order the Regional Planning Commission public hearing for Thursday, December the 3rd, here in the Levy Court Chambers. And as customarily, I'd like to ask Denise Karcher to lead us in the pledge. Now we'll move on to roll call and determination of quorum. Sarah?
Mr. Peterman?
Here.
Mr. Servan?
Here.
Mrs. Karcher? Here. Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Spinarelli?
Here.
Mr. Davis is absent. Mr. Jester?
Here.
So you have 6 present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. In front of you, you have the approval for the agenda tonight. If there's no changes, I'd entertain a motion to adopt it.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call to commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Servan?
Yes.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Spanarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
So you have 6 yeas in favor of approving tonight's agenda.
I thank you very much. I'll now come right back to you, Sarah, for the introduction and public hearing instructions.
Thank you. This public hearing is conducted for the purpose of giving the citizens of the county the opportunity to present testimony on the applications before the Regional Planning Commission. Everyone will have a chance to speak. All statements are to be made from the podium at the front of the room. All testimony given shall be sworn or affirmed. For the record, please give your name and address. Copies of any written statements or exhibits used during the hearing should be presented for identification and inclusion in the record. The record will remain open for 2 business days following tonight's hearing. For each application before the commission, the chairman will introduce the application. Then the applicant or representative will be given 15 minutes to present the application. Then those in favor of the application will be allotted 5 minutes each to speak. Then those opposed to the application will be allotted 5 minutes each to speak. When everyone has had an opportunity to give testimony, the hearing on the application will be closed. No decision will be made by the Planning Commission tonight. The Commission will hold a public business meeting next Thursday, December 10th, at 6:30 p.m., at which time it will make a decision on the applications heard tonight. All information of record will be considered, and a common vote of 4 members of the Commission is required to make a decision. Anyone may attend the business meeting, but no new testimony will be received. The public notice of this hearing was published on November 13th, 2020 in the Delaware State News. The levy court will hear these applications on Tuesday, December 15th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Unless tabled by the Commission or withdrawn prior to the levy court hearing, the levy court also meets in this room. Mr. Chairman.
I thank you very much. Now we're going to enter the public hearing, and I would ask that if you have a telephone or other electronic device that you either turn it off or put it on vibrate so it won't disturb the meeting. Our first application tonight is actually C-20-09, Feltz Brianna. Applicant owner, Brianna and Samuel Feltz, 187 Heartleaf Lane, Magnolia, Delaware, 19962. Plan designation, low density residential. Zoning district AC, agricultural conservation. Relationship to the growth zone inside. Present use, residential. Proposed use, residential with an accessory apartment. The water is Central Water. The sewer is the Kent County Sewer District. Levy Court District is Mr. Buxton. School District is Cesar Rudd. Fire District is Station 55, Magnolia. Area and location, 0.26 plus or minus acres, commonly described as 187 Heartleaf Lane, and further described as Lot 24 of the Meadows at Chestnut Ridge, located southwest of Magnolia. Is there somebody here to represent this application? If so, come to the mic, and you'll either be sworn or affirmed by our attorney. Give your name and address.
Brianna Feltz, 187 Heartleaf Lane, Magnolia, Delaware, 19962.
Ms. Felt, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Proceed.
Go right ahead with your presentation, young lady.
Okay, so I would like to start with saying that the reason why we're trying to finish up in our basement is for my parents to move into. My husband is currently active duty, and he's gone a lot. He will be gone over 9 months this year. He's currently deployed stateside in South Carolina. So the point is for my parents to move in to provide additional support, because honestly, it's exhausting to raise a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old by myself, and I also work full-time. So the whole purpose is for them to move in, but still have their own living space separate from me. We have no intention of renting it out to anyone else. We plan on staying there long-term, and I have a couple letters that show that we plan on staying here long-term. We make no intention to move, as I'm sure most of you don't have an intention to leave your homes. The fact that he's active duty and could move isn't an issue, because I've already made commitments to stay for my own personal business, and I have a letter to include that. And also, that's one of the reasons my parents are moving, is because he is probably going to be PCS, permanent change of station, coming up soon in the next year. And so I need additional support because he's gonna be gone. So you probably can see that I have 2 objections. The first is from the HOA, stating that all of our homes must remain a single dwelling residence, and that's in the covenant, which I think you guys probably have. But in the covenant, it states that there can be no additional building or structure of any kind, temporary or permanent. So we're not putting anything outside the building. Everything that's already on the outside is staying that way. It's all in the basement. And it also says that a single-family dwelling can be no more than 3 persons who are not related by marriage or blood, except as limited by state or federal law. It's my parents by obviously blood, and then my husband is by marriage, and my 2 kids are by blood and marriage. And then it also states, because the HOA made a point that if I do move away, the next person can rent it out because it's going to be its kind of own separate kitchen and everything. But it also states that anyone that buys the house has to agree to not rent it out. It's in our covenants and our bylaws that they sign when they buy the house. And then when you look at the Kent County website, it says the purpose of and intent of the provisions concerning accessory dwelling units, which shall include accessory apartments and accessory cottages, is to provide a diversity of housing for residents while protecting the single-family character of residential neighborhoods. And then it goes on to say, but it's basically saying that you're allowed an accessory dwelling and it still counts as a single-family dwelling. One of the other objections, as I stated, is that we're active duty military, which I don't feel was right that they should even include that. I felt that was very discriminatory, and it actually kind of offended me personally. And then the other thing that they addressed is parking. We're allowed 2 street parking lots. So far, we have no cars on the street and no cars in the driveway. Both our cars go in the garage. The other objection is actually from a member of the HOA board who happens to live within 200 feet of my property line. So I had written an email to HOA explaining why I would like them to rescind their objection, and they wrote back, we're not going to do that. And then 4 days later, the neighbor then sent in her objection, who's on the HOA board, basically stating the exact same reasons as the HOA. So really, it's kind of one objection. That could be conjecture, but so some of the other things is when I sent out those letters to get approval from my neighbors that live in 200 feet, I got an email from a 208 Heartleaf that says, we absolutely okayed it, where do we send it? And then I got a text message from another neighbor asking again, where do I send that? I don't have envelopes, can you provide an envelope so I can mail it back, which I did. And then on November 17th, 2020, the HOA sent out a letter to all the neighbors, except for me. I had a kind enough neighbor to come and show it to me, that basically stated what was going on and kind of asked everyone to come express their concerns. I just thought that should be made aware that they sent it to everyone but me. It's kind of starting to feel personal a little bit. So I just posted something on Facebook. I said, hello all, I'm sure you received the mailing from HOA to add my accessory dwelling. If you would like to hear to the other side of the story, please come to the hearing. And I had someone reach back out to me in a message, and I'm including this to you, basically said, we're 100% behind you. And in reality, you could have just finished your basement and not told anyone. But the whole reason why we're going through this is because I want it to be legal and on the up and up. And I want it to add to the property value of my home. And this is like, because, I mean, we all want more additional property value to our home. But if we ever do decide to sell it, then like I said, the other owners will have to say that they're not going to rent it out, but it will add value to my home. And better yet, it adds value to all my neighbors' home. If my property value increases, their property value increases. I have a letter from another friend in the neighborhood who's active duty, and he has just kind of given a character witness that's included. The neighbor across the street wrote a letter for me as well, and she goes into why she can attest that I'm not going to move, that there shouldn't be a problem anyway, and that she's met my parents, and they're lovely people. And then I also have the letter from the other advisor. We're buying a permanent building. She's buying a building, and I've agreed to sign a 5-year lease for my business. I took over about 500 to 600 clients out of New Jersey. I'm a financial advisor, and I had promised when I took on those clients that I wasn't going to be moving and that I agreed to sign a 5-year lease because these clients have experienced a lot of turnover, so I promised to stay so that they wouldn't have additional turnover. And I think that is it. Let me check my little binder here.
Well, you've done a fantastic job. It sounds like you must do public speaking because I haven't heard a lot of or ahs or hesitations, and a very fine job on your speaking and what you've done on your research.
I went to visit my husband. It's an 8.5-hour drive, so I practiced a lot. I've been real fired up about this issue.
Understood, because I know it can be very trying to come in front of a commission like this and give your public hearing testimony. Being you're done your presentation, I'll open it up to commissioners. Does any of the commissioners have any questions for this lady? Anybody on the phone?
My husband is online. I told him he had to join virtually to support
She
me.
done a very good job of explaining.
Yeah, you did a very good job. I'll ask if there's anybody else in a minute once we get through this. So no commissioners have anything? I certainly thank you,
Thank you.
and we'll see what happens with your
Okay, thank you.
particular application. I still have it open for anybody that's for this application. Is it still *1, Mark? If you're on the phone and are for this application, hit *1. Nobody there? Last call for. Anybody else for this application would like to speak, please come up. Now we'll turn for the against. Is there anybody here against this particular application? If there is, come up, give your name. You can either be sworn or affirmed. And please keep the microphone as close as you can. With these masks, it's very hard to hear you up here.
I agree totally. Good evening. My name's Tim DeVito,
And your address?
11 Deerberry Drive, Meadows of Chestnut Ridge. I'm the HOA president.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
Okay.
Sir,
First
you
of
can
all-
feel free to pull the mic closer to you.
Yeah, keep the mic as close as possible.
There we go. A little better?
That's much better.
Okay, very good.
We're all senior citizens. Well, most of us up here are senior citizens. I'll be careful with
hear
that. I
ya.
better not say
Turn
that.
it up a little bit or wherever you have it. I
Thank you very
understand.
much.
No problem.
Go ahead with your opposition.
Yes, I'd like to address the reason as to our objection. As Ms. Phelps did say, yes, we did object because of the covenant stating the fact that they are to be single resident family homes. Single dwellings is how it's stated. And when we were approached, when we received the Planning Commission's or their application, it stated an accessory apartment. The board had discussed once, and we felt that based on what the covenant states, a single family, once you create an accessory apartment, a separate living space, a separate housekeeping space, you've created an apartment. Whether you call it an accessory apartment, an efficiency apartment, a mother-in-law apartment, it's an apartment. And we understand her reason for wanting her parents in. That's not a problem. Many of our homes have finished basements. They just don't have the food preparation area. So we felt that by creating an apartment, that possibly, and it's a lot of what ifs and a lot of unknowns and uncertainties later on in life. We always say things are forever, but we know things are never forever. That it creates the opportunity for a rental. We say that we won't rent, and I understand all good intentions. At current time, we don't have the intention to do something, but sometimes life changes, and we know it does. We're living in that right now. And it creates the possibility for a rental. Also, when you look at, you have one home, we have 118 homes, how many others will apply for accessory apartments? We don't know. I mean, I'm assuming we don't know. We're looking out into the future and nobody has the answer. We understand that. But we felt we need to keep that integrity of the single-family neighborhood, single-family dwellings. And that's what we had focused on, and that was our primary reason for objection. We did recommend and made a suggestion to Ms. Phelps and her husband, you complete the basement, finish the basement out. Many of our homes have that. My own home has that. And many of the homes have a family member staying in the basement. They just use the common food preparation area, the kitchen per se. So obviously that suggestion was just not acceptable. That, I guess they wanted to create a complete separate living space. And we felt that that was leading to the apartment. As far as other things, yes, she is correct. Our covenants do allow for up to 3 individuals not related by blood to stay in the home. But again, it states nowhere that you can create a separate living space, a separate housekeeping space for those up to 3 individuals. So again, it led us back to you can complete the basement and still accomplish, and in my response to her, you can still accomplish what you're trying to do. Have your parents stay there to help you? That's great. Family is important. However, do we need to have a separate apartment? We felt you didn't, and that goes against the neighborhood layout of single-family homes. So, and yes, so that is in the covenants, and you can look up the covenants. They're on the county website. She's correct. The HOA board did send out a copy of the notice, public notice, to inform the homeowners as to what was coming up and what the HOA did and why we declined it or objected to it, to inform the homeowners. So that was the reason for the mailings that she had just brought up to us. With that said, you know, parking is an is a problem in our neighborhood. Our roads are narrow. If you're familiar with the area, there are 4 Chestnut Ridge neighborhoods all crammed together, tied together by one road or two. Our roads in the Meadows are the narrowest of all of them. For whatever reason, that's how the builder laid it out. That's how he developed the lots. And according to the county rules and regulations, they have to provide 2 off-street parking, which is fine. They have a 4-car driveway. Most of us do. I believe every home does. Well, no, there isn't. I take that back. There are 1 or 2 that doesn't. And there's a 2-car driveway, garage. So there is ample room for the 2 off-street. But again, looking to the what ifs, if you allow the 1, then you know, what's to stop the other 117 homes, 100 homes, 50 homes, 20 homes from putting in an apartment? Now you have another 40, 50 cars on a narrow street. We already have complaints of traffic and speeding. We have hired Blues for jobs, or Jobs for Blues. We've had them do traffic for us to check speeders. We felt that it just, that may open up a can of worms as far as with the other dwellings. That was our primary objection, though, is that they're single-family dwellings, and by whatever animal you want to call it, it's an apartment. But you know, the option of finishing the basement is I think, doable and would accommodate what they're trying to do, and that's how we had felt. I don't know the part that she's talking about renting. In our covenants, I can't recall seeing that anywhere. But that was pretty much our objective.
I thank you very much, and we tried to address those road widths a few years back, and you can thank DelDOT and your legislators for keeping them too narrow, because I am a volunteer firefighter, and I tell you what, when you drive these big trucks in there, I guess sometimes you're going to have to knock the BMWs and the others aside to be able to get through.
Then you may remember the fire there a couple, 4 or 5 years ago when it wiped out 3 homes.
Oh, yeah, you mean the fire that went through 2 or 3 houses?
Vehicles had a hard time getting through.
Yes, but it is something that's been over the years, and Sarah can tell you that we actually passed something, but DelDOT thumbed their nose at us, and here we're still staying like we are.
We're kicking around an idea of trying to maybe get it to one side of the street parking or something, because some days it's like.
I understand. I understand it, especially when they're doing construction in an area and they put a dumpster out there.
Yep.
It becomes very, 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 very dangerous.
You should see on Thursday morning.
I could go on forever, but we got to keep the meeting moving. Is that all you have for tonight, sir?
I have nothing. Any questions?
I asked the commissioners, they have any questions for this gentleman?
Yeah, question.
You have a question, Mr. Mills?
Yeah, I just understand what she wants to do, and I don't hear any objection from what you're saying about her parents coming to live with her.
Mm-hmm.
The objection is the fact that she's opening up an apartment in the basement. Now, would you be satisfied if, and I'll have to ask the attorney this, if it could be done and incorporated in, where that could only be for the time that she owns that house? If she were to sell that house, it would divert back and not be able to use for an apartment at that time.
I do have some insight on that very question, because we have researched that. And yes, we can ask for, again, we can ask.
I think Sarah can address that about having a apartment like this and what happens to it when they move on.
A conditional use stays with the property. I think what's most notable about the county's accessory apartment requirements is that the house always has to be owner occupied. That's so it doesn't become two rentals within a unit.
Yeah, I think that's your judgment call there. It has to be family or related, like the young lady made in her
Correct,
presentation.
correct.
So I think that's good. Okay?
Very good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You did a fine job.
Well, Mr. Servon has a question.
Oh, hold on, sir. Mr. Servon has a question for you. He's on the phone.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Does it state in your covenants that owners cannot put a kitchen in their basement?
No, it states neither
No.
for or
Okay.
against it.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Servon. I didn't know you had a question. Thank you. Is there anybody else here against this application? Come on up to the mic, give your name, your address, and you'll either be sworn or affirmed.
Susan D., 264 Heartleaf Lane in the Meadows of Chestnut Ridge in Magnolia, Delaware.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
Okay. My objection, I live on the same street as Ms. Phelps. I understand her concerns. It also says in the covenants you can't have a business. If you are renting out an apartment, and granted, she's not going to be charging her parents' rent, but I am still concerned going forward. When I bought this house, I only bought it because it was in a single-family dwelling in the development. It was not going to be multiple-use housing. There were no townhomes, there were no other apartments, no condos, nothing like that. People can say that they're not going to, but if there is an apartment there, who's to say in the future, unless she takes out the kitchen when she goes to sell it, that somebody wouldn't say, oh, well, we can just say it's family members and rent it out to somebody else. That's my concern.
And I think you guys are you all, with your HOA, have to be very diligent if she does move on and make sure that things stay like they need to be.
But can you make somebody take out the kitchen?
Not to really take out, but once again, it has to be a direct member and all like that that's having it in there.
Because she knows, because she lives on the street, we have the curviest street in the development. And when buses and the waste disposal even try to get down those streets on a Thursday, it's quite challenging.
I can believe it. I can believe it.
And if more people start doing this, you have destroyed the neighborhood people bought into.
Well, I certainly appreciate your testimony. And does anybody on the commission or anybody on the phone have a question for this opposition? Thank you very much. Oh, wait a minute. Staff? No, she has a question for staff.
And I know you can't give me an exact number, but can you give me, I always ask you these questions. In the past year or, whatever period of time you want to give me, how many applications have come for these accessory apartments?
Since the county, some years ago, it could have been 2009, I'm not entirely sure, the county allowed them administratively, right? Since then, this is the first one that's come to the commission. We don't process a lot of them, maybe a handful a year. They're not extremely common.
So they're not even as common as home daycares, I would presume.
Oh, we do more of those.
Yes. Thank you again, ma'am. Thank you, Denise. Is there anybody else here in opposition to this application? Anybody else in opposition? If not, we will take up this application next week. Oh, hold up. We have one. Anybody on the phone for star one? I keep forgetting. I apologize.
If there's anyone on the phone that would like to comment in opposition to this application, please press star 1.
Okay, we will take up this application next week. Our second application, and you hand the paperwork to Sarah over there. Anything you want to submit in for us to receive during the week. And you have till it's Tuesday, I believe. Close the business Monday if you have anything else. We're now going into the next application. It's an ordinance number and application and name is LC-20-13, CZ-20-04, The Fountain Real Estate LLC. Applicant owner, The Fountain Real Estate LLC, 12 Goggin Court, Canton, Wyoming, Delaware, 19934. Present zoning designation is AR, Agriculture Residential, Low Density Residential. Proposed zoning, BG, General Business, Highway Commercial. Relationship to the growth zone inside. Levy Court District is the 5th, Mr. Sweeney. School District is Cesar Rodney. Fire District is Station 41, Camden, Wyoming. Area and location is 1.88 acres located on the east side of South DuPont Highway, US Route 13, approximately 0.46 miles north of Barney Jenkins Road, County Road 370, south of Woodside. Is there somebody here to represent this application? He's at the mic. Please give your name, and you'll be either sworn or affirmed, and your address.
Absolutely. My name is Eric LaFontaine, and my address is 654 Indian Runner Road in Felton.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
Go right ahead.
All right, guys. Sorry if I seem a little illiterate here. This is my first time doing something like this, but
it's ours too, so that's okay.
And we're in it together. So I bought this property from the Haas's, who own the butcher shop, who acquired it through a tax sale sometime a year or two ago. I'm unsure of that. I acquired the property around June, and with the intention.
Hey, as close to the mic as you can, or pull it up to you. Once again, we have difficulty hearing you.
Absolutely, I'm sorry. So I bought the property around June with the full intention of trying to get this zone this way. I also own a construction company here local, Apex Builders, and we are currently at the address 654 Indian Runner Road, which is another agriculture residential zoning, but it's my residence, and we just kind of operate out of there. Recently, some neighbors who acquired their property through I don't know what it is, but their family member had deceased, and they acquired the property that way. They since then cleared their lot and put a new home on there, and then I told them I was going to do everything I can to make their stay peaceful, because that's their retirement home. So in speaking with the Haas's, they told me they had this property, and I thought perfect. If you look at the map here, almost everything on there is lit with business general or trailer park or whatever it may be. So I'm thinking, why not? Across the street, there's a plaza that was recently built by Diamond State Pole Buildings, and they have, I think, a dozen businesses in there, including 2 construction companies similar to mine. They have C&M Custom Homes is there, and Diamond State Pole Buildings. Down the street is everything from an Arby's to a liquor store to a Subway to a pizza shop. There is an auto dealer maybe an eighth of a mile down the road. There's another plaza down the road. Essentially, from that property, you can see the entire Green Stinger parking lot. You can see the Arby's and the gas station across the street, the Woodside Shopping Center where the liquor store, there's, like I said, Subway, there's a pharmacy, everything there. Next door, there's one residential property, and then if you skip that, it goes 2 more business generals, which would have a thrift store and an auto dealer. I read on the application that it was, the staff recommends denial. And I don't understand that at all, but that's your thing. The only objection I believe I would have would be from the neighbor, and that's because we have a little personal issue, and that's their personal issue with me more than mine with them. So I bought the property and essentially it's a dump site. For 30 years, roughly 32 years, people have been dumping trash, tires, stones. There was an illegal chicken farm in the back, which the neighbors and the squatter were both engaged in helping with that. the neighbor would get chicken eggs and all that just to kind of be hush hush about it. Since then, I've relocated roughly 2,000 pigeons, 1,000 doves, 2,000 chickens. I mean, we're talking turkeys, pigeons, doves, everything you can think of. I went to the state and went through the proper channels and found out the U.S. Department of Agriculture had actually been by this property for the last 5 years monitoring it. This property was more than disgusting. Since I've owned it, I've put roughly $10,000 in dump fees and skid loader work into the property to get it up to snuff in order to make it a little more presentable to the community around it. What I propose to put there is a 30 by 40 pole structure that I can have my office and my shop in, and with the understanding that I can't have equipment, backhoes, excavators, and all these things. I can have only 5,000 square feet of impermeable surface. When I went through the PLUS meeting, we went through all that kind of stuff. And to me, it's a perfect opportunity for a construction company. Down the street, if you go about 1.5 miles, Rob Davis has another plaza. Forest Fence is maybe another mile down the street. So we have, in that zone, would almost be like the construction district of Delaware, if at one point, because everybody around there is being zoned and operating a construction company or some sort of a business out of there. There's mortgage companies across the street, a pole building thing, C&M, everybody's there. I wouldn't see any reason to object that. It's 2 acres and it's directly on the highway. When the light at Woodside goes red, the traffic backs up past my property. So it's not like I'm going to be impeding anyone's traffic. We have 3 vehicles that we operate out of currently, that our construction company operates with currently. That could go up to 5 or whatever vehicles. But we're a residential contractor, so we're not a big commercial contractor who's going to be bringing in track loaders and all sort of things. The biggest equipment we own is a very small skid loader and some dump trailers. Other than that, we're just residential contractors. I like to build residential homes, renovate homes, apartment buildings. We do roofing, stuff like that. Nothing that we do is actually on site. So everything we do is off site. And even moving forward, if it were to be sold or rented or whatever it may be, because I know you can still have the possibility of renting it to somebody, they would still have to follow the same guidelines of the county. It wouldn't be as if we could just rent it to somebody who can just go rogue and do as they please. The other thing I was trying to accomplish with it is it's part of my retirement plan. So as a contractor, I don't know if you know, but they don't just give us retirements. So we have to acquire property and acquire goods and hope that they increase in value. So my retirement plan and that to leave to my children would be the uptick in the property value. Since I've started cleaning it out, about a month into cleaning it out, we started having the issues with neighbors and the squatter. The squatter and I, like I said, relocated thousands of birds, thousands and thousands of birds. The police and the fire people who have come out there and seen the property have thanked me. They said, look, man, we've arrested people here. We've had multiple, drug incidents there and fire incident, or, whatever they call them. They're not incidents, but you would know, you're a fireman. I wouldn't know too much. But
I don't know a lot. I got news for you.
So when I got there, there was 2 illegal mobile homes that were there. I got rid of those. I've got, thousands of dollars worth of dump fees and everything else. I've cut down trees. I've cleared up brush. I've done everything I need to do to try to beautify it. And then obviously we're going to go, we're only going to put in so much money until we decide whether or not we can keep going forward. I don't know if anybody's even familiar with this property or has ever seen this property, but it was a complete wreck. It was the worst looking property probably in Kent County, and I'm surprised that you guys don't own it at this point, to be perfectly honest with you. And that's kind of my piece on that. That's pretty much all I have for that.
Very good, very good. You're aware that it has a great proximity to wetlands on the east side of it and around the sides of it, not the whole property itself, correct? You're right. You know about the relationship between it and the close wetlands.
I do. On the back side of the property, there's a small parcel of
Yeah, and
mine.
on the north and the south.
Yeah, yep.
So-
But that's so far back. The property line is about 760 feet deep. So anything I'm going to build would be in the first 200 feet. There's another 500 and something feet. There's almost an acre and a half of property that I wouldn't even be actually allowed to use by the way the plus was telling me. I wouldn't even be allowed to use most of the place, more than half of the property I wouldn't even be allowed to use.
Well, and then when you talk about the 5,000 square feet, anything in excess would be stormwater management.
Absolutely.
And you'd have to go through. I do have a question for Sarah. Would requesting a BG from an AR to a BG, would this fall under a conditional use better than a BG?
No, well, depending on what he wanted to do. If what he wants to do isn't permitted in the AR zoning district, it's irrelevant. He would have to rezone.
Okay, so he has to change the zoning is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I'm just asking for your benefit.
Can I also ask her a question? With the
me?
conditional use, does it have to have a primary residence on it?
You're talking about a home-based contractor establishment.
Correct.
That is something that would be permitted in the AR zoning district.
Only if it had a home already, only if I
Home-based.
had a home built
Yes.
on it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, yeah.
So, thank you, sir. Who has a question?
Absolutely.
Mr. Servo.
Go ahead with your question.
Well, now I'm wondering, because we've heard a very nice story, but I'm wondering if it gets rezoned to BG, but he wants to, in the future, put a house on it, is that going to cause him trouble?
It would make it more difficult. I mean, often some commercial uses will have sort of an accessory dwelling as, I don't know, a watchman or what have you. But no, I mean, single-family residential is not contemplated for the BG zoning district. So that would be unusual.
And to that, I don't.
Keep the mic, sir. Keep the mic close to you.
Yep. And to that, I don't see anyone who would do that, including myself. I don't owe any money on the property, and I plan to leave this to my children. So this is a
You're not planning to put, you said you wanted to have it for the future, for retiring.
for my retirement income.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, for my retirement income. So when I decide to retire as a contractor, I may be able to rent it out to the next up and coming contractor, and he would have 120 foot of highway frontage property in order to advertise and make money from it and market.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Now, will he have to come back to us? If it gets rezoned, will he have to come back to us for the site plan?
If it were to be a contractor's establishment, if it's just to be an office, no. It depends on how intensively he intends to use the site.
I plan to use it as an office because all of our construction work is actually done elsewhere. It's done on your home or in an apartment complex somewhere. We're roofers and carpenters. So we would actually have that as an office or a sales office.
I guess the entrance would be okay with DelDOT, or have you proceeded with DelDOT to ask them about entrances?
Yep. They said it's good to go when we were doing the plus stuff. There's another form I have to submit after we go forward from this, but yep, they're good to go with it.
But you do understand the comments from the county and about the denial recommendation?
I don't understand the comments. I understand that the comments were initially, they recommend denial. I just don't understand why.
Well, it's spelled out in the comments if you read it.
Yeah, I have it here. I just
want to make sure that you've read them and the reasoning given there for the denial. Have you read it?
Yeah, they were just saying there's no mistake in the zoning map. It doesn't conform to the comprehensive plan for low density residential use. But that's where I'm having a hang up, because it doesn't seem that the area other than the direct neighbor is anything that's low density residential use. The other neighbor is zoned to be approved as a trailer park. So if I had bought the lot next door, I can put essentially a trailer park there, which would be a whole lot more traffic. And 2 doors down, there's a thrift shop and an auto dealer. Directly across the street, I had to send a letter to another 2 construction companies, much larger than mine. And they also have mortgage companies. They have a full shopping center there. I had to send a letter out to a shopping center to see if my one little single lot could get approved, kind of deal. So that's why I don't kind of understand where they come from, the denial. But I mean, I understand you guys have that job to do.
I just wanted you to be aware of the comments.
Oh,
and
okay.
make sure you've read them and understand them.
Well, I read them. Yep.
Mr. Peterman?
So you never have any intentions of building a house there and living there?
Never. No, I own several properties, and that would be the least of my intentions would be to live on the highway.
Okay, or do you have any intentions of gating that? So, because you said you got squatters in there and everything else, junk, people
Nope,
dump
so if I-
trash on you and things like, do you have any intentions of gating that area to keep people out from trashing it out or burglarizing?
Nope. Since I've taken over and cleaned out, I've actually got to know the squatter. He's an older gentleman from Poland, and he didn't quite understand the reasoning of everything that was happening. He's been squatting there since 1988. And they used to have an illegal chicken fighting ring, a dog fighting ring, and everything else there that he was telling me. So this property has literally been this has literally been a nuisance property to the county since its inception, probably.
I appreciate you cleaning it up.
Thank you.
You don't have the worst. I bought one of the worst. but
Sounds like you could write a story about the
yeah,
location.
but I wanted to, I appreciate you cleaning it up because it encourages others to do so also. But I just want to make sure that if you was going to, weren't going to live there, were you going to do anything to protect that property from this continually happening and things like that, and make sure that your intent wasn't ever to build a house there, but in the future just run it out to possibly another contractor for your retention or whatever.
That would be the intention solely.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Does any other commissioners, either on the phone or here, have any questions for this? Mr. Mills?
I think my question was answered when Mr. Chairman asked you about the wetlands. I'm looking at the map here and I can't figure it out. How far up in that land does the wetlands come? You said only half acre out of the 2 acres, a half acre of it?
So if you look where essentially the rear triangle of the property, the south side of that rear triangle has a bit of wetlands.
That's the only part of that?
It's very small.
Is wetlands?
It's very small. The total is probably close to 1/8 of an acre, if that.
Now, you'll have to get a wetland delineation done on the property before you can do anything with it?
I'm not certain about that. I don't think so.
As long as he doesn't touch it, he won't have to do it. He's not talking about going back there.
No, I want to stay within the first 100 feet of the road for obvious business reasons.
Does anybody on the phone, any commissioners on the phone, have any questions for this applicant? Hearing none. Anybody else have any questions? If not, we thank you for your presentation. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here for this application? For this application. One last call for the application. Anybody for it? I'm going over to the against. Is there anybody against this application? Please come up, give your name, your address, and either be sworn or affirmed.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Luter. I live at 7359 South DuPont Highway in Felton, Delaware.
So do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Proceed.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Benjamin Luter, and I'm here to strongly oppose this rezoning. The arrival of Mr. LaFontaine next door has been much more than an inconvenience. He has resulted in the destruction of my property on multiple times, and twice the damage was deliberate. Mr. LaFontaine's arrival has not only brought physical damage, but we can't even enjoy the outside since his arrival, and have had to install additional security cameras. All this has happened, and the property hasn't even been rezoned yet. The first instance of property destruction occurred when Mr. LaFontaine was excavating the property. He accidentally ripped the cable connection out of the ground, severing my connection. When I confronted him about this, his reaction was denial. Understandably, it was an accident. And when we found the tore line out, he just, well, it shouldn't be on my property. And I said, you know, don't you have to call a number first and have this marked out? And he said, no, I'm not digging. And okay, it was an accident, leave it at that. And I was able to actually fix it myself, so we didn't have to wait for Comcast to come out there, and the line was marked out, so it wouldn't get damaged again. The second instance of property destruction was deliberate. One morning, I was startled by the sight of Mr. LaFontaine standing in the far right corner of my front yard, trimming a branch off my tree. As I approached him, I called out to him. He turned around and shut the chainsaw off, and before I could say anything, he said, now I'm paraphrasing this, don't come at me all aggressive. I work in a hostile environment. I don't deal well with hostility. So I said, oh, okay, you know, I'm not trying to come off aggressive, but I believe, you know, you're cutting down my tree. And I pointed to the property marker and said, you know, the property marker shows different. He said no, bent down to the property marker, put his, like, for instance, this is the property marker. He put his hand in front of the property marker, and he said, no, that it's, I have the tree, but here's the thing, the tree is right here. Sorry, right here. So this would be the tree, and even if we went by his statement, the property line just touches flush against the tree. So, excuse me, sorry. Now, I said, I'm not trying to, you know, I just don't want you cutting down my tree. And he said, no again. He pointed down the marker, put his hand on the other side, and said, this is the property. And I said, no, you know, your property ends at the marker. It doesn't end on the opposite side of the marker. Now, I said, even if when I was saying that version, I said the F-bomb, and he assertively said, oh, there's the F word. And I laughed, and I said, you know, I said the F word again, we're adults, you know, you can relax. I'm not directing at you, I'm just saying it, you know, So Mr. LaFontaine said, you know, you don't come at me aggressive, and I'm trying to tell him, you know, I'm not. And if it was the case, I would have came over and said something, you know, about the cable, nagged him about the cable, or nagged him about he was leaving debris on my yard. And I know he was working, so it's understandable the debris gets pushed over. And I'm not trying to be hostile. If anything, I would have just called the cops. And as soon as I said, call the cops, it was like a bomb went off. And he said, no, call the effing cops. He at that point, when I said cops, he literally got in my face like this. And I was getting peppered by spit, saying, call the cops. And I'm thinking, like, this dude's gonna hit me or some crap like that, because he's in my face screaming at me. So I'm like, no, I'm not trying to call the cops, buddy. You know, I just don't want you to cut down the tree. So, and then I also pointed at the camera and said, I have you on audio and video, so don't do anything stupid. At that point, he got his chainsaw, picked it up, started it up. And when he did that, I said, it's time for me to go inside. So I turned around and went back inside, and a couple hours, well, fast forward to like 4 or 5 o'clock, this is roughly morning time when that incident happened, my significant other gets home, and she's been all the while been kept up to date on the situation. Now, she sees that the whole tree is missing. Before, he was just cutting down a branch that was hanging down. Now, the whole tree is missing, and she's upset, understandably, as part of the tree line, and she calls the authorities to stop him from potentially chopping down any more of the trees. So the cops arrive, they're informed of the situation. The officer asked me to accompany him to get Mr. LaFontaine's side of the story. Mr. LaFontaine is next door in his little excavator working, and the officer fails to get his attention, so he asked me if I could walk over and flag him down since I'm wearing boots and there's deep mud over there because he pulled everything out, and he has his fancy officer shoes on. So I said, okay. And I walked over there. I managed to flag him down, and immediately I pointed to the cop. immediately return to my property. So as Mr. LaFontaine approached, at his phone recording, the officer said, you know, hey, like, I got a couple questions. You know, what's your name? And he gets irate. Oh, I don't have to tell you anything, blah, blah, blah. So,
Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
We're not here to dispute things like that.
All right.
You've really got to have a property survey, and what you're talking about is some kind of criminal charges. All we're here for tonight is to look at the zoning regulations and why you don't want it zoned or rezoned to BG.
Yes, I was.
We just got to, you know.
Yeah, that was tying into the story.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry.
When you have personal conflicts, that's between you and the other property owner. That's why you get a survey. That's why you mark your lines. And when you have those personal disagreements, then you settle them besides here at a meeting like this. So what rezoned to BG?
Well, he's going to affect my way of life there. He's already destroyed the trees by not doing his excavator work. He tore out a lot of the roots. He's tore out my cable that once on accident, second time deliberate.
Once again, though,
yes.
What about the zoning?
The zoning,
That's what we're talking about, is going from AR to BG zoning.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So
well, I want to oppose.
And we're not dealing with any personal conflicts. If you want to do that, that's between you and a lawyer and legal counsel and probably some kind of a verdict someplace. But anything else besides that, we just want to know, if this commission wants to know, why are you against it being changed in zoning?
Well, one, it's going to disturb my animals. It's already disturbed my way of life. If he gets it rezoned to commercial, I don't know, he could do whatever he wants. He could be in there with a bunch of trucks all day, or he could sell it and something else can happen. I was just trying to have a little farm with my goats and chickens. I only moved in there 2 years ago, and that's it. I just want to live my life in peace. And I don't really want a business
and we understand
coming around
that.
all day.
You know, we understand that. We're not against you. We're not against them. We're just taking legal testimony tonight to find out why you might be opposed to the zoning.
Yes, well, I just think he completely disregards the rules, and and if that happens and he gets it rezoned, all these incidents. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to personally attack him, but I was trying to tie in to how he was doing this, and it hasn't been zoned. And if he gets it zoned business, what is he going to do then?
Understood. Understood.
I'm sorry.
Do you have anything else you'd like to present?
No, that's it.
You did a good job. Just got to keep quiet and keep your temper about things like that, because we're not here for personal conflicts.
No.
We're here for legal zoning issues. Is there anybody on this commission has any questions for this particular gentleman? Anybody on the phone? Are we good? We certainly thank you for your time and thank you for your presentation, and we understand what you're saying.
All right, thank you.
Last call for against. Is there anybody else here against this application? Seeing none, then excuse me? Anybody on the phone? *1? Anybody on the phone at all? Then if not, this application we'll take it up next week. We're now down to public comment. Is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, I go to commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments?
Thank you, guys.
Is there any other business before this commission tonight? Nobody has any business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Sarah calls the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Servon?
Yes to adjourn.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Spinarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. I thank you all, and thank you on the phone, and be safe.